We lived in the same family for our childhoods, which I have remembered as blissful and she remembers as horrible. And it was horrible for her. She was beaten by our father. She was naughty and remembers us knowing, my brother and I, and she imagined we must have been denying it to ourselves to keep ourselves together. And it's true, I remember nothing apart from how terrifying he was. But then, as the boy, you reach a place where you can thump back, I guess. Fear of father must be a Freudian thing. It must be, and a thing to overcome somehow. For some reason, I did overcome. Why and what it cost me, I don't know yet. And I suspect, remembering, he was afraid of me. That daughter thumping was a thing he thought he could do with impunity. Which leads me ... The other night I watched The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo again. Naomi Rapace's performance is really something, and I was shook by the theme of her abuse. I hadn't registered it the first time. She is raped by her guardian, her ward or whatever. We know, but there is intimation clearly that she was abused by her father and other members of her masculine family, which leads me ... I think the silence around the abuse of daughters and sisters far more toxic than the original sin. It may be the original sin, probably invented by the patriarchs to cover their sins, if sinning is your game. Your worldview, that some don't and others do. I've not heard one pundit, while covering the grooming gangs of North England, mention Giselle Pellicot, or condemn the Church of England because of Prince Andrew's relationship with great groomer Epstein. How do we do that? So easily exonerate ourselves. What are we afraid of? Why do we specify our scapegoat other and ignore the behaviors of our own? We do. Solutions are not sought. The problem is solved by blaming Islam, which is guilty but is not alone. We are no different. And here we must start. Let he who hath not sinned, but we don't. Which leads me ... And it funneled into the discussions around Gaza. The thing that has troubled me from day one was the trope, the Piers Morgan trope. Do you condemn Hamas? And it suddenly popped into my mind, do you condemn apartheid? The counter demand we cannot dream of making. Every state that supports Israel is or has been forever apartheid. It is the tool of colonialism. The immediate condemning of October the 7th came unbeckoned from Europe, the Americas, and Australia. I went, And if I'm an upstart in this, Chomsky said it with his usual, well, it's obvious. Except it isn't obvious to them that will not see. Just as I lived in the state my father had established, that worked quite well for me, I could easily ignore what it was doing to my sister. We are arrant knaves all. I could accuse me of such things. It were better my mother had not borne me, end quote. How many of us religious types, particularly, are walking around demonizing as death cult Hamas? What the hell was Masada? And ignoring the rape committed by us or our fathers. How many Scott Jennings have entirely convinced themselves of the patriarchal right to rape, dominate, and create apartheid states, and then mythologize that nation as sacred? That's so convenient. Our own perfect Zion being torn down by its victims, we have simply decided do not exist. A land without a people. The repeated question from idiots like Douglas Murray is, why do you blame Israel for everything? I don't. But I do blame them for some of it. And that will do. That statement is intolerable to monotheists. But the answer to the question is revealing the need to have an absolute good opposing an absolute evil. And we know who brought us that worldview. It is the abusive father forgivable? I hope so, but confession would be crucial and not repaired with 10 Hail Marys. Then, just yesterday, I thought, well, I have grown up in 2 apartheid states. So from the age of 6 to the age of 17, 11 years. Trinidad was still a very blatant one when I was 6, and by the time I got to the United States, it had been one until very recently, 1965 Civil Rights Act, and I was immediately swamped by the extraordinary propaganda the US pumps at its 11-year-olds non-stop. The lady protesting far too much, methinks. As a child, I wanted a utopia to be my home. I suppose we all do. But then I grew the fuck up. And it wasn't so much that I acknowledged it. I was 6, but that I knew it. In Trinidad every day, my sister and my extended black family was being beaten. And I ignored it. Why? The shame would have been huge, it's true. Were I capable of shame? Scott Jennings isn't. Kamala Harris isn't. Because Christianity makes virtue and compassion performative. We are commanded to do it, so we do it to show. It is not rooted in our instincts. The monotheists have none. They proscribe instinct after all. Their priorities are cult. We are good, they are not. My white father was supposed to be the essence of goodness. The truth was against the faith, that does happen when you make compassion a commandment and do not locate it in humanity, in instinct. This is the step forward or backward of monotheism. The commandment to be good. Tom Holland will claim the creed of obedience. The West's issue, their creed is we are superior. There was a time when they were militarily superior. Rome, we remain militarily superior. Rome or Alexander or Ramses, all West if you know geography, challenged every now and then by Mongols, but hard at work maintaining the best of the killing machines. Then the great change, as Tom Holland will tell you, will insist. We saw the light of Christ, and suddenly the wars were glommed on to goodness, because they did not stop, Thomas. They did not stop with Rome's dissolution, please. They raged on with inquisitions, expulsions, pogroms, and colonialisms to make a Caesar blush. It was righteousness that drove the butchery and still does. The childness of it. One is trying so very hard to live in a paradise. One isn't, but one imagines maybe one is being protected from the angry, skinny people outside the compound gates, the Gaza wall, by the church, on the other side of the barbed wire fence. And the church is hard at work telling the skinny they shall inherit if they were to follow Jesus. And Trinidad was otherwise as near as damn it a paradise. Perhaps the way I have heard South Africa was. Perhaps paradise was necessary too to me, because Mum and Dad were not getting along. That was falling apart. My trick, my tremendous luck, was to never feel victimized by my state. My courageous sister was victimized by it and has shouldered on anyway. This is a difference, fellas, white men in particular, should face instead of denying the abuse happened. It did. My sister shoulders on. Perhaps it roots her flirtation with religion. Nobody else helped. I didn't. Perhaps it is the bad father that makes us invent the good one, where I only know it is camouflage. It, religion, confers unaccountability. And what does the guilty party do? Invents a myth of their own victimhood, the bullied bully. If I bless Israel. Then, of course, I had an answer to Gaza for the first time. Judaism is a religion of victims. The great persecution story, which ain't exactly true. There's no evidence of the slavery in Egypt. It is generally acknowledged as a myth. Why? Being victimized is a binding myth like no other. And it really happens.